Hello?
Down to do it. Down to do it. Down to do it. This is Udort and I'm down to dunk. This is Udort and I'm down to do it.
I'm Josh Giddey and I'm down to dunk.
Hey, this is Kenny Hustle and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Darius Baisley and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Mike Muscala and I'm down to dunk.
This is Poku and I'm down to dunk.
I love cereal. Captain Crunch, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Cracklin' Oat Bran.
Oh, I can have these? I'm going to share with my team, but I'm going to hog most of them.
Good morning and welcome to episode 1-2-1-0 of Down to Dunk. You can find us on The Athletic and anywhere else you subscribe to your podcast. Go to theathletic.com/down to dunk and get The Athletic for $1 a month for 6 months. I am Luke, joined this morning by Andrew.
But I gotta say, I'm just fired up to be here today. It's pretty cool. Pretty damn cool. Woo!
Slam through.
And Jay.
It's Jay.
Well, guys,
Well,
this is not the most fun day to do a Thunder podcast. But, Jay, what was your reaction to yesterday's news and Sam's presser and everything? Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, so I obviously got the news. I took like a Twitter hiatus on my phone because it was just consuming too much of my time. Just
That's healthy.
and, like
It's a healthy thing to do.
unnecessary checking it, where it's like, oh, I just checked it, I'll check it again. But then I got it back, and so I hadn't had Woj on notifications probably since the beginning of free agency, and so I had him on yesterday. Finally, like I literally 2 days ago, I put him on, and
Wow.
thank God because I got to see that Patrick Beverly is now a Laker. But
Yeah,
man, the Chet news, and it's always one of these things where it creates, and I know I'm not alone in this, but anytime you see the name Oklahoma City in a Shams or a Woj tweet, it's always like, oh, like there's genuinely like a chemical reaction that takes
for real.
place.
Yeah.
Which so much of that comes back to walking through the summers of Sam. Anyway, so when Chet comes across, and it's just, I think my initial reaction was anytime there's a foot injury, it's just a panic-inducing reality. And then on top of that is just those conversations immediately about what does their future look like, and what does that future look like in the immediate future, and specifically around Shai. I think this is another year that is going to have more of that developmental, which it was going to anyway. That's one of the things you did say yesterday in the panic pod, is how do you just recognize, like, maybe it's 2 games difference, but I think the enjoyable factor was the thing that really most fans are mourning today.
Sure.
As there was a ton of excitement around Chet and the way this team was kind of being formulated or formed. And so that was part of it. But Sam's press conference was unbelievably well done, and I thought pretty honest for Sam, and not as scripted, which is just kind of, I don't think he scripts a lot of his stuff, but I think that's just kind of how his vocabulary has developed.
Yeah.
But it was really encouraging, and to hear that it's not a bone, but a ligament or a tendon, that's encouraging. The way he gushed about Chet's work ethic, his desire to get better. And then he said that there was a quote that I clipped the video of and sent it to the podcast text message group. And so, but he said something to the effect of, if somebody had talked to him walking into the room the night of the lottery, that you could have 1 through 8 in this lottery, or you could get Chet Holmgren, but you can't play until next year or a year from now. He says, what would you do? He says, I wouldn't even let him finish the question.
Yeah.
So that affirms kind of what we thought, that even if the Thunder would have gotten the first pick, Chet was their guy all along. And he could also just be making this up, but it felt pretty real. And so the excitement they have, but also just the encouragement. Sam was very encouraging, but I think there was a humanity to the fact that Sam acknowledged, and you can correct this or give any insight you might have on this, but when he had mentioned, the fans showing support to Chet, he mentioned that a few different times, two different times as part of the questions. So when I hear that, I'm like, Sam obviously is smart enough to recognize that this will impact the morale of the fans and possibly even the involvement of the fans as we head into this new season. And so, it's Sam has a very clear plan for the rebuild.
Yeah.
But he also has the tension of the season ticket holder and the people that show up to the games and the energy that comes alongside that. And so I do think that this team has enough other pieces that people will be excited about. And I think the product on the floor is going to be better, at least for the first half of the season or so. So I'm not as discouraged this morning as I probably was in the immediate fallout of the Chet news. It sucks. And I go to the place. It's really easy. Like, this is a freak thing. That's the thing that Sam kept going back to. He's just like, listen, a millisecond later, and if he lands slightly different, it's not going to be this injury. And so people go down this path of like pro-am games, and it's like, what are these guys supposed to just lock themselves up for the summer? Like, you can only be in the gym and only in ways that doesn't hurt you. It's like part of life is injuries. And
this one was in NBA sanctioned. It wasn't like he's just going to your local Y and playing. And he could do that too if he wanted to.
I was about to say, but even if he did, it's not like that's So anyway, but overall, like, obviously it's a bummer, but I do think it's Andrew and I have been having not really conflict, but talking about this future. And I do think that either way, this does improve your odds to improve this roster with one more really intentional draft. But if this puts them in the top 5 of the 2023 draft, just in basic overview of it, I think they're going to find a piece that is you're going to have a core that is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So
Elmon?
Well, I cried. I diarrheaed in my pants. And then I renounced all religions. And I have no faith in the future and no hope. So I'm a little different than Jay.
Wow. Well,
it's not surprising.
Did announce the preseason schedule yesterday too. Just they slipped that in there after this Chet news. October 3rd in Denver will be their first preseason game. In Tulsa, on October 5th, they play the Mavericks. Then on October 6th, they play the Adelaide 36ers at home. And then also they play another international team on October 9th. The 11th, they play in Detroit. And then October 13th, they play in San Antonio. So 3 home games for the preseason, 3 away games. 2 of those games are against non-NBA teams. So there you go. And one of them's in Tulsa. Technically home, but in Tulsa. So fun that it's the Mavs for Tulsa people. Maybe your first Christian Wood sighting.
What was funny is, I think that was when the Thunder posted that on Twitter, and you go to the replies, and it was like 35 different versions of the same. Not now. Read the room.
Yeah. It's more of maybe a Friday news dump time. I don't know. It probably doesn't matter. It's a preseason,
But it does. It's not too far away, which is kind of awesome. I mean, training camp's going to be here, 3 weeks?
Yeah, we're a month away from Media Day.
Dang, man.
Yeah. 1 month. Okay. Do we want to talk about the Patrick Beverly trade? What were your thoughts on that, Jamon?
Somebody sent me a text that was like, do you think the Thunder are doing this to try to get Russ to just be like, just trade me little? Actually, I'm just going to retire.
Yeah. It feels
You know,
like it. If they were to trade for anybody that would make Russ furious and make Russ actually just be like, yeah, like I'll take a buyout, like 12 million or whatever off.
Yep.
I'll take whatever. Just get me out of here. I don't want to be here anymore. It would be
It's
Bev.
my favorite thing in this era of NBA is to watch Laker fans suffer. And so the reality that they had all summer long convinced themselves that they were going to get Kyrie Irving just to end up with Patrick Beverly is just perfect.
Poetic, yeah.
It is such a passive. It's such a passive aggressive move towards Russ. I mean, it's has to be something that he's furious about.
I would say it's fully aggressive. I would say it's 100% aggressive against Russell Westbrook. Jeannie Buss is going to be on the Tampering podcast on Monday, so get ready for that. I mean, I'm sure that Sam will ask her about this trade, but
are you producing that one?
Yes.
Do you think she watched the HBO show about the Lakers and her dad?
100% she did. Yes.
Do you think that she will admit that she did?
I don't know. I think that she already has admitted that she did.
Oh, really? Well, because it'd be so much easier just to be like, "Oh, I haven't seen it,"
I think she has already had some statement about it. And also, if you are like the Laker, like you've been with the Lakers since you were a kid, like you'd have to watch it, right? Like you just have to.
I bet there's a lot that goes into that. I bet. But it's very interesting. You gotta. I'm sure. It's such a dumb move, though. I don't know why they would do that. Because if Russ doesn't accept a buyout or doesn't get traded, they're just setting themselves up for just such a toxic locker room.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's right.
I probably trend or lean that way. I do think that there's so many times. I know I thought that was a brilliant post. I could tell the L man is in a very dark place right now. But I mean, how many times has somebody who you thought was like a mortal enemy on the court come in and next thing you know, they've put it down for the sake of being better, like that can happen.
But we're talking about Russell Westbrook and Patrick Beverly.
Yeah.
Pat Bev tricked y'all. Pat Bev tricked y'all. I don't know, man.
It also shows the value to me of Taylor Horton Tucker. Like, that was it.
Yeah, it's diminished quite a bit. Yeah. This is Rodrigue Bobois levels of stardom to he's not really anything.
Yep.
And he may actually be okay on like a rebuilding team like the Jazz. He's just a horrible fit with Russell Westbrook and LeBron James because he doesn't shoot. You can't, that's exactly what you need is like a guy like Pat Bev next to LeBron is like defends, shoots threes, is a good teammate. Like that's what you need. You don't need Taylor Horton Tucker, who's like, I need the ball in my hands to be effective. If I don't, then I'm useless almost because he's not a great defender, and offensively he doesn't do much off the ball. So
and Patrick Beverly, he had his worst shooting year ever last year in Minnesota at 34%, which is still not. I mean, you would take that for a guy like Giddey, but most of the time he hovers around 40%. That's kind of been what he's known for. He's actually kind of a 3-and-D point guard because you don't really ever expect him to initiate the offense. But if you're going to replace, who did they have as their other point guard? Was DJ Augustine on this team?
Oh my gosh. I think he was. I think that's right. But they didn't play him. But I don't know. This is so weird to think about. excuse me, this Lakers team, because they didn't make the playoffs. And so like Malik Monk played a lot for them, but he's not really a point guard. Gosh, they had Isaiah Thomas for 4 games last year.
Well, Austin Reeves, obviously, but he's more of a shooting guard. And then you also have Avery Bradley, which Avery Bradley and Beverly are kind of redundant, but having 2 guys that do that similar skill set is actually pretty. I mean, it's pretty useful.
Yeah, Rajon Rondo was on this team. Darren Collison played 3 games for them.
No,
This is what Basketball Reference is telling me.
everything you're telling me right now is telling me that this was not the roster from 2021, but from 2011.
Yeah, I know. They had 25 guys on their roster last year. 25.
Stanley Johnson, still a guy that continues to be traded.
Yeah, he's a Jasmine now.
He was definitely a hyped wing player coming out of college.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, he's supposed to be a monster. Is he like the 7th pick or something like that?
Yep. Yeah. So, but anyway, yeah. I mean, it's in the desert of the summer. This is not exactly the news that you were pining for. It's like, hey, what about like a major injury that makes the fan base question everything?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. How do you guys think that it affects Shai? Because I think that's a lot of people are going there. Like, oh my gosh. Well, now Shai is, another year of, wasted Shai and yada yada. I kind of wanted to pull up Devin Booker, because Devin Booker was thought of this way for a long time, and then it just like flipped suddenly. So Devin Booker, before they got Chris Paul, played 6 seasons with the Suns. So he had 6 losing seasons before he even made the playoffs. And obviously their playoff run was spectacular in year 1, year 2, not as great, flamed out kind of embarrassingly. But I mean, in year 4 with the Suns, he was averaging 26.6 points per game, 4 boards, 6.8 assists per game, and on a putrid team. So I would just say that like there is a precedent for having a really good player on a team that doesn't make the playoffs year over year.
How many years is this with Shai? We're heading into a year what with Shai?
So this would be year 3 of not making the playoffs with Shai.
Uh-huh.
So,
but his 4th year. But his 4th year overall.
4th year overall, has made the playoffs with the Thunder.
True.
Has made the playoffs with the Clippers. That's another thing, is that like Devin Booker played 6 years in the league without being in the playoffs at all.
I do think that for this, like the setback of Chet not being here for a year, with everyone else on the team's timeline, it's like, okay, scheme of things, not a big deal, except I think for Shai. That's the one, and that's why people are reaching to that, saying, oh no. And to be completely honest, I would be fine if we traded Shai and just got assets and just fixed that problem.
Yeah.
I would be fine with that.
Yeah. I don't think it's a problem, today. I think this season, again, I've reiterated this several times, but I think this season is heading in the direction it was going to anyways. And the 23-24 season could be like really interesting. Like if they got the 4th pick in this next draft, you'd be bringing back the 4th pick and Chet to start with this team, which would be really interesting. And then we don't know what we're going to get from J-Dub this year. We don't know what we're going to get from Trey Mann. We don't know what we're going to get from Jang. That team could look stacked, by the time that we get to the 23-24 season. It's just a shame that we have to wait that long, because it should be like this slower like build up, like stair stepping up to the core of the team, but theoretically next season there'll be like a bigger step, with like this like miniature step this year, is kind of how it goes. So it's not like there's no hope on the horizon, you know?
No, and on top of that is like, just unless Shai has a legit injury, like just let him play.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. That's the only thing that's concerning to me is if they do the thing again where he sits for 30 games, then I think that would be where I get nervous about his frustration. The challenge, and this is why it's always like, yeah, trade Shai, that's easy. But the point of this rebuild is to potentially get a guy like Shai. So why would you get rid of him for what is so unknown? Unless there was a guy that was like a second year high potential guy that, a team is ready to win now, but they have this guy but nobody's getting rid of the RJ Barretts of the world. Like, I guess if you did RJ Barrett for Shai plus,
No,
but that's a year different.
no, there's no way I would do that.
But you know what I'm saying? Like that's the kind of guy that would kind of potentially make sense. But I think you just hold on to Shai. If Shai gets disgruntled, you can do that. But let him cook this year, man. Let him have a blast out there and do whatever he wants. If he averages 30 points a game, and the team is going to be better. Like I think adding the J-Dub piece by itself is better. I think you're also hopefully going to see an improvement from guys like Beasley, guys like even maybe Poku. They're going to be better, and it'll be a more enjoyable product and probably a more enjoyable team to play with. But it's still, there's no way it's not disheartening. But in the end, I mean, Shai has, at least to this point, been very okay with the way things are being run, like to the point of buying in a way that we're like, is he just playing with us? So I'm not incredibly concerned about Shai right now. I think that I don't think it's dumb and worth dismissing those conversations. But in the end, you're not going to get equal value for him. It's just the truth.
Yeah. Unless he demands a trade. You're right. You trade him, and then a year later, you're immediately looking for a guy just like him. And like, newsflash, those guys aren't available. Those guys are not available via trade. So you're going to have to draft them. And so then you're just like in the exact same place. And it would have to just be like Shai is so disgruntled with the plan not going well that, he's out. But I just would be surprised to hear that. It's not impossible, but I would be surprised to hear that. You'd have to draw the number 2 pick in next year's draft, to feel good about like not having Shai on the roster and having additional assets. But you'd have to get something back significant in order to trade him,
And significant. That's what I was trying to say with the RJ Barrett, which I know is not the one anybody gets excited about, but significant player in addition to a timeline that fits where this team is.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just going to be not frustrating, maybe is the right word, but just like annoying to have to keep like basically having under a microscope every single thing that Shai says now, because like, oh, he said this. Does that mean he's unhappy? Does that mean he's like the rebuild's going bad? Does that mean that his chemistry with the other guys is bad? Does this mean this? Like, it would, when previous to this, it was like, things are good, we're so happy, everything's going, we're very excited. Now it's just that's the thing that I'm not looking forward to the most, probably, is just the kind of microscope that puts under or over Shai.
Yeah. I mean, one thing about it too is that he's entering the first year of a 5-year deal. And we just saw how incredibly difficult it was to find a fair deal for Kevin Durant. In a large part because he had no leverage. He's got 4 years left on his deal. And so the Nets had a high asking price. They couldn't find anybody to meet that asking price. And so they just had to go back to the table with KD and figure it out. it's a similar situation. 5 years, but this is 5 years with no options. If it comes down to it, they sit down with Shai and they're like, "Listen, this is our plan. You're gonna have to stick this out because there's no way for us to get fair value for you."
That's true. And I mean, he at least, and he knew the plan and did resign. And so, I mean, he's on board and knew that, these things could happen. So
yeah, is not, they can't, like, Sam didn't sit down and like promise, like, here's the linear progression of how we get back there. And this is all guaranteed to happen. You can't guarantee things to happen. And if things go well with the surgery with Chet and rehab goes well, and he's like theoretically back on the court, playing 5-on-5, not in the NBA, but in April or whatever, and then he can play all summer. A lot of guys have done very well. It's mostly, the examples are mostly from the NFL, but most guys have done very well after having this surgery and coming back. So if Chet looks great next summer, you draft somebody high in this next draft. Like, why? Like, at that point, if we're fast forwarding a year from now, like, I don't think that we're having this Shai conversation. You know what I mean? So it just, to me, it seems like because of the 5-year deal and because it's not a hopeless situation. It's not like Chet died. Like, he's just not going to play for a year. So we're not in a hopeless situation. We're in a frustrating situation. We're in a situation that is not ideal. However, this team could look really, really interesting in 23-24 to the point where it's like, oh my gosh, is this is not Westbrook, Durant, Harden, but is this the best young Thunder team ever because of the depth? Because the Thunder have never been a team known for depth. Maybe that Chris Paul year was like the only year that was like, man, this is a pretty deep team, but never been known for just having depth. And if they just hit on one other guy, whether it's Jang or J-Dub or J-Will, and Trey Mann ends up being good, and it's just like, oh my gosh, like, look at all these guys on this Thunder team, Aaron Wiggins, like, there's just a lot of guys. And so to me, that you're either going to take a big step because you have so much talent, or you may have to consolidate. And then when a team comes to you, you're like, well, we also have a cajillion picks and we have like 6 really interesting young players, and we can trade for, and we don't have a good wing, or we don't have a good power forward, or we don't have whatever. You're going to have so many options. And that, to me, was what I would go to Shai with and be like, listen, this is going to kind of suck for a year, but the options that we have at our disposal after this year, after we get another lottery pick, is going to be almost limitless, within reason, to build a team that is going to compete at a high level for a long time. And we want you to be our leading scorer. We want you to, lead the charge with this group. So if you can hang on for another year, and I honestly think that's the messaging anyways. Like, I'll say that again. Like, I don't think the message is different to him today than it was, 2 weeks ago. I don't think that it's changed. All that's changed is like the way that this team will play this year. But I think that it's all the same.
Yeah, it's not like they were, Shai, we know that we were gunning for the playoffs with this 20-year-old beanpole who's just figuring out the NBA. But since that's not going to happen now,
right?
Can you just hold on? Like, the conversation was still, hey, this year is going to be rocky. Is it going to be more fun? Yeah, I think so. Are you going to have more space to operate because which is just like, play Mike. Like, this not on the same level, obviously, that Chet does, but as far as shooting
12 minutes a game or whatever, I don't think Mike can handle like a heavy load, but yeah, they'll play him.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, I think there's really a high likelihood that if that Shai's going to have a great season individually, and it's still going to end up being a bad season for the team, which is ultimately good for the team.
Yeah, definitely.
So, anyway.
Oh man, you got an online deep dive?
I just spent my day doom scrolling on Twitter. I did mainly just doom scroll, and then I got into Alex's caves. People getting stuck in the caves, and called him and talked about that. So no, not really. I didn't deep dive much after the Chet news, unfortunately.
How do you feel about these cave videos?
They are terrifying. I don't know if you've watched them.
No.
They are very scary.
Yeah.
Because people, and I just don't know why people would ever do them. One, that's what the odds are that you're gonna get stuck and die. But I was happy that Alex sent me those because I've watched them before.
Yeah,
but
I'm out on that. Okay.
Have you ever watched one?
No.
Come on, dude. They're not that bad.
They're not so bad. Yeah, they're
cool. Not so bad. It's kind of relatable.
Yeah, no thanks. All right. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have some Twitter questions. And we're back after that quick break. Now it's time for some Twitter questions.
Twitter questions. You got questions and you ask them on Twitter. Now we answer them for you. This is Twitter questions. Now let's get down to it.
Sounded weird on my end, but hey, here Twitter questions. Our first Twitter question comes from @BWeek, who wants to know what's something that made you happy recently. I need some recommendations.
So there was a new Brahms that opened up on 150th in May, which is not terribly far from where I live. And they had this the first week that they were open, or I guess maybe this was the first week that they're open. They were handing out these little scratch ticket things that you every purchase. And so we went, they also had free ice cream for kids that were 12 and under. And so we went and we got a few scratch tickets, and my middle son kept going up to every single employee and was like, "Hey, mister, could I please have another scratch ticket?" And ended up with 22 of these scratch tickets. He just kept running back to the table. He's like, "I got 5 more." And so we have, and each one has a prize of some sort on it, whether it's a free ice cream cone or free French fries or something. So now we have all this free stuff from Brahms, which is that's great. It made me happy. It made me feel happy. Every time you came back to the table, I just busted out laughing.
That's funny because mine was ice cream based too. Ice cream. I've been really into ice cream lately from Brahms. But
what you getting
the
down
other thing,
and you're a mix man.
I'm a mix man. Yeah, a Reese's mix. I love a Reese's mix.
Yeah.
With extra Reese's. But then in Stillwater, all summer Chick-fil-A has been closed.
Yeah.
But on Tuesday it reopened.
Wow, that is big news.
It was big, and it made me happy because it had been gone, and it reopened. It, for all intents and purposes, is exactly the same. And the drive, they've kind of redone their drive-through so that there are they were already doing 2 lanes,
Yeah.
but now it makes a little bit. It doesn't converge into 1 lane at one point, so it just keeps 2. They have the ability to do that.
Yeah.
But I went on Wednesday, and I will go again today for lunch, and it made me happy. It was great.
Yeah, that is great. Jay, we're talking about things that made us happy. One more Brahms-related thing that made me happy. My father-in-law taught me this trick that he does. He gets no sugar-added vanilla bean ice cream, asks them to put a banana in it, and asks them to put pecans in it, and they'll do all that at no charge into a shake, and it's really good.
It's good.
Well, that made me happy.
Yeah.
Do they crunch? Are the pecans big, or do they crunch up the pecans?
They're crunched up,
And the banana is like mixed in there.
completely mixed in. Yeah.
Huh.
It's delightful, and you at least feel like you're getting something healthy, although you're just not, but like you definitely feel like you are.
I think that you say that that's not an extra price. I bet that varies from Brahms to Brahms. I bet some places are going to ask for a little bit more money.
It's possible. I also figured out they'll put candy in this location. They were putting candy in a shake at no charge.
See, this is just grand opening, to get you hyped on Brahms. These things are going to cost a little bit more. In my opinion,
you should try it. I challenge you to try to get like a chocolate or vanilla shake and just say, can you put Reese's in it?
Well, because I'm doing the Reese's mix, extra Reese's. I'm paying for that extra Reese's.
You're paying for the extra. Okay.
Oh, hell yeah. Worth every penny.
I'm just telling you, they did it for free yesterday.
Yeah. We'll check. I need to check back when the next time you go back again, especially after you go back and you are paying with scratch-off tickets for the next month. First time you're not. I think they're going to charge a little bit extra.
Yeah, I've fed my family on $12 and scratch tickets yesterday.
Yeah, I think you're gonna run this Brahms out of business pretty quick.
It's kind of amazing. Jay, what's made you happy lately?
So today is my son's 13th birthday, man. So
Wow,
I've got a teenager.
Teenager.
That was it. Yeah, so that's making me happy, and we're going next week to Mexico. Pretty excited about that.
Is your teenager going with you?
For his 13th birthday?
Nope.
Oh.
I know, man. We aren't really those kind of people that take our kids to resorts. We only have one kid. We just, when we do resort life, we want adult only is kind of what I'm saying. So we don't take, I've never taken my son on one of those trips. It's just myself and my wife. I just tossed that up for you guys. So, man, dude, here's the deal. I learned many moons ago that I can't allow things that I have no control over, like NBA teams, NCAA football teams, to really ruin my mood for more than just a few minutes.
Yeah.
So that's a big growth point for me, because back in the day, we used to what was the run? It was the 2011 playoffs where they played the Mavericks. Yeah, it was the year the Mavericks won.
Yep.
It was the year the Mavericks won. And that season, we would have playoff parties in my backyard when I lived over in the village, and we'd be on the backyard. I had the TV set up, and we'd be having such a good time, except for me, because I was sitting and watching. Because I don't know if y'all remember that Maverick series where it was like the Thunder were up by 20, like 4 different times in the first half, and the Mavericks ended up just coming back and winning all those. And I was in such a sour mood after every single one of those games. And so I have gotten to the point now where I'm a little less emotionally swayed by what happens for the Thunder. So
it's very mature.
But
wow,
my son's birthday. That's what
you have matured.
You have matured.
You have matured.
Or I'm just saying that and it's not real, but it's what I hope I'm doing.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna check in with you after the day after an OU football game one time this season and see if that's true. Because I feel like
way
that
more
is
way
not
more
always
true for
correct.
way more true for OU football than it is for Thunder basketball.
Well, Jay, I'm glad you're happy.
Thanks.
Glad you're happy. Let's go to our next Twitter question. It comes from @TreyWitzel, who says, there's a lot of first level thinking, end quote, the greatest way for Sam to call people stupid.
Definitely. It's a high level thinking way to call people stupid. Saying that there's a lot of, and he was referring to people talking about Chet's frame as the reason for his injury, and he just referred to it as first level thinking. And I think that should be every Thunder fan's retort on Twitter when somebody says that that's what it is. It's just that, like, wow, it's a lot of first level thinking there. So yeah, it's a great way to insult somebody.
Is it because I've never heard that like phrase before, first level thinking. How many levels are there?
I mean, when I've heard it when I've heard it like somebody talking about it, like I think they just think of it as like first and second level, right? Am I wrong about that, Jay?
Why?
I genuinely, I'm not sure I've ever used that phrase.
Yeah.
So I think that if we were talking about Sam Presti, I think there are probably like 10 layers or
50 levels to this.
He's operating in this like plane of existence that none of the rest of us are.
Mm-hmm.
And this first level is what all of us people who trust the internet are, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But he also made another jab at that. I think I don't know if it's Cliff Brunt or who it was that asked the question about.
Oh, it was Cliff. It was Cliff.
What did he say? Something about the internet, and he's like, first off, that's an oxymoron because I can't remember what the actual premise was, but
yeah, something.
Sam was on one yesterday, man.
He was. Sam is not here for the internet. That's for sure.
No, I had this. So I have a friend that works in a nonprofit here in the city, and this is I'm getting to a thing that I think is really important for Thunder fans to realize. And so, but he works for a nonprofit, and they had one of those Thunder Cares days at their nonprofit, and he was responsible for like making sure that they had all the volunteer stuff that they needed and all these different things. One of the things that's mandatory in places like his, where the Thunder would be serving, is each one of the Thunder players had to have one of those mats underneath them at all times when they were working. So they had to like buy like 7 or 8 of those mats to get those 7 to 8 Thunder players. Like, this is where you stand while you're serving or while you're packing boxes or whatever as part of your work. And so when I was listening to that, I was like, it's not surprising because these guys are tremendous assets for these organizations. And the Thunder and really any NBA team goes above and beyond to make sure that physically they're as taken care as possible. That's why whenever you're listening to Sam yesterday, and he's like, man, we've consulted the 3 best foot surgeons in the entire country on this surgery. We haven't even decided who's going to do the surgery, but we have a consensus based on the best minds in this world about the injury. This is not like you and I just heading over to McBride and like, well, going in, don't know who this guy is, but hopefully he fixes my problem. This is like they are investing and invested in these guys' future. And for me, it's an encouraging thing because that being the fact that it's not a bone, which I know feet bones are a little bit difficult to heal because of blood flow and all those different things. But the fact that they have the best minds and this is what they do. Yeah. Anti-fatigue mats is what Hoops Talk 69 said. So
anti-fatigue mats.
Yeah. If you've ever worked in a restaurant, you'll see them. They're on the floor back there where a lot of people stand for a long time. So, but anyway, it's just one of those things as he was talking yesterday is hearing the recovery. Nick Collison's going to have some sort of influence in that, which is probably just more encouragement that it is like, all right, tomorrow do this. But these guys invest physically in their players in a way that we just don't understand. So that's why it's like I'm not super discouraged. I do think Chet comes back. I know that there's some pessimism, particularly within our podcast thread about what his future looks like. But there is, for me, a lot of optimism on what the future looks like, and that's also how I kind of see the world.
Here's Cliff Brunt's question and Sam's answer only about the internet. So you mentioned the internet. A lot of hopes have been put on Chet, even though he's a rookie. There's a lot of energy about him being here and a lot of, like I said, high hopes put on him. But without him, some fans will say it's time to get another really high draft pick, and they will look at it from that standpoint. What do you say to those people? Because that's a reality on the internet and among fans that lose hope when a significant player goes down. Sam's reply. Well, the first thing I'd say is like the first thing I say is like a major oxymoron. Reality on internet does not exist. It's an alternate world. It's like a play world.
Wow, Sam's a hater.
Hater of the internet.
Hater.
Yeah.
It's probably because man, he just doesn't get it, man. He just doesn't get it. He doesn't know what it's like down in the internet Twitter trenches and the trenches of Reddit. He doesn't get it. He's so out of touch.
It's a play world. I mean, there's definitely some truth to that.
It's more real than he even knows. It's
all right. You want to fire through a couple more TQs and then we'll go.
Yeah. Okay. Our next Twitter question comes from Kashi_AU, who said, if you had a free 1-day ticket to just one of the theme parks in Orlando, not water parks, which would you choose and why? Universal Studios, Islands of Adventure, Magic Kingdom, Hollywood Studios, Epcot, Animal Kingdom.
Hollywood Studios. It's not even close.
What's there that makes you say that?
The Star Wars land.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I actually do want to go to that. However, it would because if I'm going to one of these, I'm not going with children.
Yeah.
So if I were to go to one, I think I would actually go to Epcot.
You would like Hollywood Studios way more.
I would like to go to Hollywood Studios, yes. However, I would also like to go to Epcot because I think you can do the drinking around the world tour.
Yeah, they do have the World Showcase and the drinking around. Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah, where you get a drink in every single different world. Or
would you rather drink on Tatooine though?
I would. I do think in Star Wars Land they have like a drink that is $100, and I
mean,
might have to check it out.
It's worth it. The rides there are so much better too.
I've seen people that go and like they are dressed up like in a Star Wars like they're basically everyone dresses up as either Han Solo or Princess Leia.
Yeah, you can if you're like super into dressing up, wanting to feel like you're actually in Star Wars.
You can't.
You
encouraged.
You would feel like it. When you walk in, I'm just in like normal clothes. This past January, I felt like I was there. It's wild what they've done.
Well, I would like to go, but I have not. So that would actually be my answer. Is Jay here?
No, Jay's gone.
Okay, Jay would pick Animal Kingdom. Huge animal guy. I've never been to Animal Kingdom. Is it cool?
It's all right.
It's all right. What about the big tree?
There's a big tree.
It's not really, no.
What?
It's a fake tree. Hey, let's go to our next Twitter question. It comes from at Kenton Reeves. Without Chet, do we now have the team we would have if lottery night had not gone our way?
It's an interesting question because it's very possible that it is. Let's say if things don't go well and they get like the 7th pick, which is totally in play. Like maybe they take Shaden Sharp or maybe they take Dyson Daniels there. I don't think they were going to take Sohan as much as I loved him. there's a chance that at 7 they take Jang, and then at 12 they take Jalen Williams. So it's a really interesting thought that this is like an alternate reality, anyways. Just luckily they do have Chet to add to those guys, but I do think that it's like sincerely something that could have happened, where things go like terribly wrong, but they end up with this exact team right now, like minus Chet. It's kind of I hadn't thought of it until you asked the question, but it's a great question, just to think about that. Like if you're just unlucky and you get pick 8, I know that Jang was being considered as high as 8 in this last draft. So, yeah, I thought that was an interesting question. It definitely could be. I mean, obviously the Thunder, they traded 3 picks to get Jang, so they valued him pretty highly and could have taken him pretty high in the lottery given the opportunity.
Hey, I have a question about Star Wars Land. Do they have Star Wars characters like walking around? Like, are you going to see like a character from Star Wars?
Yes.
Which ones did you see?
Chewbacca. Right when we got in there, we saw Chewbacca.
And it is Chewbacca. It is not a Wookiee. Like they acknowledge this is Chewbacca.
Correct. He's wearing the Chewbacca. What is his
bandolier?
Bandolier, yes. Yeah.
Yes. Does he have a gun?
I don't remember if he had a gun.
Okay.
There were like stormtroopers just like walking around everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it's legitimately very cool.
Do you think Jar Jar Binks ever walks around? I think Jar Jar Binks, and they never let him out of the cage.
I don't know that they have the technology.
I'm certain that they do.
I have not seen Jar Jar. I think he's being, written out of the canon as much as possible.
I think so too, and I think it's a shame.
It's a shame. We need more Jar Jar. We need his own spinoff.
I want more Jar Jar. I do. I want to see him in, because I think I don't know, but
Would you watch a Jar Jar spinoff on Disney Plus?
Here's the thing. I'm going to watch all the spinoffs.
Okay.
I'm going to watch them all. I'm going to like them at different levels of liking them, but I'm going to really watch them all. There's not really one I'll like. Andor is about to come out. I'll watch it.
What would possibly happen on a Jar Jar Binks spinoff?
I think Jar Jar is going to get into some mischief, and inadvertently cause a bunch of problems, either inadvertently save people's life. It's basically just going to be a live action Mr. Magoo Star Wars.
Star Wars Magoo.
Star Wars Magoo. He is Mr. Magoo as Star Wars.
Wow.
And I watched that,
Do we need to do Miffed and Peeved this week?
I think this has been all Miffed and Peeved.
I think this has been an all Miffed and Peeved.
I think we're all peeved off.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons to be peeved. Chet being out for the season, chief among them. So we won't leave you guys with the Miffed and Peeved. We will be back with another podcast on Monday. If you want to leave us a voicemail, the voicemails for Voicemail Monday are already filling up.
Oh, no.
So if you want a chance to have your voice on Voicemail Monday, you better get those calls in pretty quick, because I think I've already got a ton already. So,
oh no,
it could be too late.
Is it, is that your personal cell phone?
It's my cell phone. No.
It's a number that is only for this.
It's Google Voice.
Ah.
Yeah.
I mean, like your phone is just ringing off the hook. You cannot.
Well, I had first had it tied to my phone, and my phone was ringing every time. Start. This has got to stop.
No, that can't happen.
But I'll leave you guys with that number: 405-543-1970. That's 405-543-1970. If you want to be on Voicemail Mondays, you got to make them good. Again, if you want to get yours on the show, make them 45 seconds or less. Make it a good question, and you'll get on Voicemail Monday. Hope you guys have a great weekend. If you're still just fretting about Chet,
Go to Brahms.
go to Brahms.
Treat yourself.
Get yourself a shake. See if they'll give you a free banana. Also, just don't worry about it. Nothing you can do about it. All right,
Dude, can I just tell you a quick miffed and peeved I have real quick?
Miffed and peeved.
I found at this Walgreens in Stillwater, and then I found later at a different Walgreens, they have these little Lego mini figure packs that have random Legos in them, right?
Okay.
But they have Muppets.
Oh.
So I saw them and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I saw they had 3. I was like, I'll get 3. So I bought 3. I
Like
got
$5
one
or something.
$5, yeah. I got an animal. Pretty
Yeah,
cool.
that's a good one.
Because it comes with a little mini drum set, animal. And then I got 2 Miss Piggies,
Oh, no.
which, in the scheme of things, the one I wanted the least.
Yeah.
There are many, many others I would rather have. And so I was like, oh, it's a kind of a bummer, whatever. I opened them. Alex made me record myself opening them so that I could, so that he can watch my reaction to what I'm getting. And then, so then I went to a different Walgreens later and I found them again, 3 more. 3 more Miss.
No.
Swear to God.
There are ways to check that it's the same character.
I know. You can feel like in the packaging.
No. There's numbers on them.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's numbers on them. So you can look and see like if it is like in fact Miss Piggy. You can see there's a number associated with Miss Piggy somewhere.
Really? Because I've heard actually that you're supposed to feel in the package like feel like if the head has like Gonzo's nose or like Kermit comes with a banjo.
Yeah, that could lead you astray though.
I know.
But there is a way to check with there's some kind of number on
Well,
there.
if anyone out there is looking for a Miss Piggy Lego figure, I've got them in spades. God, I've got so many. It is so frustrating.
Oh man, you're gonna corner the market on the Miss Piggy minifigs.
It's really just soured me on the whole blind bag thing.
Yeah,
like I would have much rather had like what I'm trying to get in this is a Stanler and Waldorf.
Yes.
But I'm not finding them. I would love a Swedish Chef, but
yeah, that would be
what
awesome.
are you gonna do?
Yeah. What are you gonna do?
I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be miffed about it.
Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you guys again on Monday.